Alright, how's everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel. We look at important developments in theories of everything. All-encompassing theories that could really help your life, body, mind, and spirit, if you only knew about them. But most of them have been repressed, so you don't know about them unless you've dug pretty hard. And I'm trying to be a repository for many of these important theories. We did many videos in the past on the ancient Egyptian tree of life, kind of from a non-satanic perspective, and then now today is the 290th video that we've done on the reciprocal system of theory from Dewey B. Larson. Mr. Larson lived in the 20th century, and in about 1959 he came out with his two fundamental postulates, which was a crystallization of many years of work to encapsulate his research. And then from there he went on a period of deduction from his postulates to a theoretical universe that he wrote about in many different books on subjects like physics and chemistry and astronomy and economics and metaphysics, including religion and philosophy and psychology and dream interpretation. And he developed a small following, and these people wrote books and articles on other subjects as well. Larson died back in 1990, and today we're looking at an article that was written by one of Larson's acolytes named KVK Nehru. Dr. Nehru is an Indian from India, professor over there of I'm not sure what, but I believe that Dr. Nehru is still alive. He's been around for a while. I think he's been following the theory since at least the early 80s, if not the 70s. And he knows it better than, I would just say, better than any other living person. And that I know of anyway. We are reading one of his articles called Glimpses of a New Paradigm. And this is the fourth installment of that. So if you want to go back to the beginning of the article, you want to go back about 3 videos and start from there. Just to give you a quick glimpse of the reciprocal system, the basic ideas laid out in Larson's two fundamental postulates are that we live in a universe that is composed entirely of motion. The universe is not made out of matter, it's not made out of energy, it is made out of motion. Matter and energy are just two different varieties of motion, as are all the other scientific quantities that you are familiar with. They're all different aspects of motion, such as force and acceleration and matter and energy and electric charge and electric current and magnetic flux and permeability and permittivity and density and all of these viscosity. All of these different things are forms of motion. And motion in Larson's system is the relationship between space and time. All of those aforementioned units are basically a fraction, with time or space as the numerator and space or time as the denominator, with 3 caveats from Larson's first postulate that both time and space have their coordinate aspect, meaning that they come in 3 dimensions, and they both have their progressing aspect, which Larson calls clock time and clock space. That is a scalar motion. This is a motion that has a magnitude, but it has no particular direction. You can think of this like a clock. The clock is always getting later and later and later and later, but in no particular direction. In space, you can think of it more like a balloon with dots on it. You blow up the balloon, all of the dots are moving away from each other, but in no particular direction. And that is basically the flow of space, or clock space. Space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. And then the third caveat is that space and time are both quantized, meaning that they come only in discrete units. There is a minimum unit of time and a minimum unit of space. And if you don't have a full unit of space, then you do not have space. If you don't have a full unit of time, you don't have time. And the corollary of that is that if you don't have time, then you have space, because it's got to be one or the other. The universe is made entirely out of motion, and motion is the relationship between space and time. Space and time have no independent existence. They only exist together in motion. So if you don't have one, you have to have the other. And those are the two regions that Larson calls the time region and the space region. The space region is the region of less than 1 unit of time, and the time region is the region of less than 1 unit of space. And if you have exactly 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, space over time, space divided by time is speed. The car is moving 15 miles per hour. 15 miles of space, 1 hour of time. But if you have 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, you have the speed of light. The speed of light is what Larson calls unit speed. 1 over 1 equals 1. And so in Larson's system, unit speed is really like the origin, or the background, the null point, the 0 point, or the ether, or at least one of the ethers of this universe. Whereas in the legacy science position, measurements are made from 0. In Larson's systems, measurements are made from the speed of light outward in all directions, which is what Larson refers to as the progression of the natural reference system. So in a universe of motion, you have a moving reference system. You make your measurements from something that is moving, the speed of light, outward in all directions. And that makes sense. If you have a universe of motion, motion is the first thing that you have. You have to be able to envision motion without anything moving. Motion comes before the thing that's moving. And in fact, the thing that is moving is motion in and of itself. And so this goes way against the legacy scientists, where Einstein is saying that the speed of light is the maximum speed of the universe. Larson is saying that the speed of light is the midpoint of the universe, and that half of the universe is actually moving faster than the speed of light, which Larson calls the cosmic sector. And this cosmic sector is completely unknown to legacy science. The other half of the universe that's moving slower than the speed of light is the material sector. according to Larson, and the legacy scientists see this as being the whole of the universe. Now, one thing that makes the reciprocal system very powerful is that you can extrapolate from the material sector to the cosmic sector. Whatever is going on in the material sector, exactly the same thing is going on in the cosmic sector, except that you have to reverse the roles of space and time, showing that reciprocal relationship. So in the material sector, you have coordinate space, 3 dimensions of space, and you have clock time, progressing time, always getting later and later and later. But in the cosmic sector, across that speed of light boundary, you have coordinate time, 3 dimensions of time, and clock space. Space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. Dr. Nehru illustrates this in some of the reading that we did yesterday with quasars. Quasars are, in the reciprocal system, they are exploding galaxies. They're galaxies that have exploded across the speed of light, and so they cross that unit speed boundary, and they move from the material sector to the cosmic sector. And when they do so, they undergo various changes as a result of now dealing with coordinate time and clock space rather than coordinate space and clock time. So if you're interested in that, listen to yesterday's video, which I think was a pretty important video, just from the ground that Nehru covered there. Okay, so those are some of the basics of the reciprocal system, and we're going to get right into what Nehru is writing here. This section is called New Light on Quantum Phenomena. Since in the time region only motion in time can truly exist, the appropriate reference frame that ought to be adopted for the description of the phenomena is the 3-dimensional temporal reference frame, and not the conventional spatial reference frame. Now remember, the time region is the region of less than 1 unit of space. The time region is located in the material sector, whereas the space region is located in the cosmic sector. And so he's saying that in the time region, you use the 3-dimensional temporal reference frame, which is mainly used only in the cosmic sector, but you also use it in the time region. And so vice versa, in the space region, you're going to be using the 3-dimensional spatial reference frame, even though in the cosmic sector, you generally use the 3-dimensional temporal reference frame, or coordinate time. The origin of the conventional reference frame is at 0 speed, whereas this is conventional, meaning legacy science. Whereas the origin of the temporal reference frame is at 0 inverse speed, which is tantamount to infinite speed in the context of the conventional spatial frame, and consequently a location pertaining to the temporal reference frame is found not localized in the conventional reference frame. Okay, I kind of got lost there. I think he is referring to the reciprocal system. I'm not sure why he's using the term conventional. This is the origin of the non-locality characteristic so perplexing in quantum theory. This reciprocal or inverse relation between these two types of reference frames also explains why a localizable particle in the context of a temporal reference frame needs to be regarded as an endless repetition, namely as a wave in the context of the spatial reference frame. Thus, the reciprocal system throws new light on the concepts of quantum theory. As the time region is a region of motion in time, it requires the adoption of a temporal reference frame for the description of particle phenomena. But being irrevocably wedded to the spatial reference frame of the material sector, we are unable to accomplish this. However, we are able to accomplish the equivalent of adopting the temporal reference frame by resorting to the expedient of adopting the wave picture in the place of the particle picture. So that's pretty telling. So we use the wave picture in lieu of the temporal reference frame, because we can't use the temporal reference frame because we're in the material sector. This insight resolves the problem of the wave-particle duality. It further clarifies that the question of adopting the wave picture arises only on entering the time region, the region inside the unit of space. To associate a wave with every gross object is unwarranted. There are yet unforeseen insights brought to light by the reciprocal system. In the outside region, that is, in the context of the three-dimensional spatial reference frame, speed, s over t, is directional or vectorial. However, in the time region, that is, in the context of the three-dimensional temporal reference frame, inverse speed, or t over s, is the quantity that is directional, while speed appears scalar. But it must be cautioned that this direction of the t over s pertains to the realm of three-dimensional time and has nothing to do with direction in space. The directions in time are independent of the directions in space. Thus, inverse speed, though it could be directional in time, is not a vector. In the universe of motion, all physical quantities can be reduced to space-time terms. Larson, in a major overhaul of the dimensions of various physical quantities, arrives at the conclusion that the dimensions of energy are those of inverse speed, namely t over s. Consequently, energy needs to be represented by complex numbers in the time region, and negative energy states are as natural in the time region as negative speeds or velocities are in the spatial reference frame. So you can have negative energy in the time region, and presumably in the three-dimensional temporal reference frame of the cosmic sector. Okay, that's the end of that section. Now he's going to his conclusion, and we have endeavored to sketch out some of the important contributions of the reciprocal system to the understanding of the physical universe, starting from a new paradigm, the concept of a universe of motion, in place of the current one of a universe of matter, embedded in a framework of space and time. The examples cited here are expected to convey the broad enough scope of the theoretical system and establish that a prima facie case exists for a general theory. It is only fair to record that some of the more esoteric aspects of the theory, like multidimensional motion, the scalar region of the universe, etc., have entirely to be omitted for pedagogical reasons, and hence interesting questions concerning two large and important fields, namely of electricity and magnetism, could not be considered in this article. Mention must also be made of the fact that Larson finds the basic constituent of the universe according to the new paradigm, namely motion, to be scalar motion. Even though the existence of this kind of motion has been recognized, it has played a very minor and insignificant role in physical theory hitherto. So Larson carries out a full-scale investigation of the properties and possibilities of scalar motion and discovers that this type of motion plays the central role in the drama of the physical phenomena. He finds, for example, that some of the unexplained physical facts are really the unfamiliar features of certain types of scalar motion. In this preliminary article, we have refrained, for practical reasons, from dwelling on this important contribution of the reciprocal system. Okay, that is the end of that article. And that was part 4. So this video and the 3 before that are Nehru's article there, Glimpses of a New Paradigm. I think that's a very important article. I think it's a very good introduction. And so if you are looking to kind of pick up on the reciprocal system, you might want to study those videos. You can go over them slowly, have me rewound and repeating myself until it kind of clicks in. Now tomorrow we're going to read another article from Nehru that is called Consciousness, Motion, Space, and Time. And we'll take over with that starting tomorrow. And in the meantime, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.